Hey friends, what's happening? I'm going to try and make this brief, but it might be a little bit longer. It's an update on a previous video in a scenario where I have a listing and the contract was delayed 2 weeks because of a flag that popped up in an FHA loan search where the buyer potentially had defaulted on a federal loan. So I'll update you on that in a moment. First, I've had a number of people ask me if all I ever do is walk my dog and if I ever sell real estate or help people. Yes, I help people buy and sell real estate. We are actually quite successful at that and do quite a few transactions a year. The reason I do these videos on the walks with my dog is I'm away from my computer. And it gives me a moment to think clearly about what I want to say on these. These are not scripted. These are just off the cuff, telling you tips and stories about what goes on in the real estate world here in North Texas. Yeah, I'm David Russell. I'm a real estate agent in Dallas-Fort Worth. If I can help you, call, text, or email me. If you like this information, like it, follow it on YouTube or Facebook or here on Instagram. Follow me. I try and share as much information as I can about buying and selling homes in North Texas. Now, let me give you an update. So, about 7 weeks ago, we put a house under contract, FHA loan. Everything looked good. Lender had everything done. Lender said they're good to go, great credit, etc., etc. Well, then a flag was thrown up in the CAVR system. It's a system that checks Social Security numbers and names against the federal database for people that have defaulted on federal loans. And in this case, it flagged with the wife's name. They cleared that. It took about 2 weeks, a week and a half to clear that. We extended the closing 2 weeks. So it would have been a 6-week closing instead of a 4-week closing, extended 2 weeks due to the CAVRs, and needed to clear that up. Well, that got cleared up inside of the 2 weeks. And then the lender needed another extension for an additional 2 weeks. And here's where it got a little crazy. Not really sure why they needed an additional 2 weeks, because if they were working that file, processing it, credit approving that buyer, they could have credit approved that buyer, everything but needing CAVR's approval or needed to clear that name out of that database. They could have ordered the appraisal, could have had everything ready to go, boom, until that CAVR's came back clear. Now, I've been told that they could have ordered the appraisal, and I've been told that they couldn't. I'm not a lender, so if a lender wants to pipe in and comment on that, that would be great. But I've been told both things by 2 different lenders, so I'm not really sure 100% which is accurate. That said, if all they had to do was the appraisal and then underwriting, they could have had that loan almost all the way done. I have a lender that was willing to do that loan for that buyer in 5 days, beginning to end, 5 days. The buyer would not move over to that lender, and the buyer would not give additional earnest money, which led me to believe, and the seller, that there were other issues. There was a reason the buyer was not willing to pony up a little bit more skin in the game to make the seller feel comfortable that the loan was actually going to close. So unfortunately for this buyer, they chose not to contribute additional earnest money. They chose not to go to another lender that said they could get it done in 5 days, so they lost their earnest money. They lost their option fee money. Whoa, I almost dropped the phone. They lost their earnest and option fee money, so they lost almost $4,000 in this process. And the one thing that the buyer's agent kept saying was, this buyer doesn't have a lot of money. They can't afford to lose this money. They can't afford to lose this money. Then they should have given some additional earnest money so that the seller felt comfortable. So it makes me very suspicious that maybe there were some other issues going on. The buyer clearly did not have faith that that lender was going to get it done. And so the contract dissolved. Seller kept earnest money and buyer's out $4,000. The moral of the story to me is really make sure you've got the right lender. Because again, I have a lender that could have done that deal in 5 days, assuming there wasn't some other material deficiency or issue with their financial file. So it ended up poorly for the buyers. It ended up bad for the seller because his house was off the market for 6 weeks. Now we're back on the market. If y'all want a great house in Corinth, call, text, or email me. Hey, my name's David Russell. Like I said, I'm a realtor in North Texas. If there's anything I can do for you, call, text, or email me.